Hi everyone, welcome to this week's TBT Transfer Talk. I've got Elliot Binks with me this week. That's at Elliot Binks on Twitter. Big week in terms of transfers, as I'm sure you all know. Last couple of weeks, as we were just saying off air beforehand, we've been sort of scraping their barrel a bit for news and things, I guess. I mean, Moreno stuff was sort of last week, which we were all very relieved about. But the big thing that everyone wanted really was the striker. And what day was it? I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. A couple of rumours
Yeah,
in the
it was
morning.
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of rumours in the morning coming from Italy, which everyone sort of dismissed. That Mario Balotelli was, and his people were in talks with Liverpool. The AC Milan, I think it was president, then dismissed it, Galliani. So everyone sort of thought, oh, just another rubbish rumour. Would never go for Balotelli. But then later that evening, um, Mr. Tony Barrett confirmed it. James Pearce, and initially it was widely reported to be a loan deal, but obviously Milan weren't really up for that. Um, and we actually, went in with a permanent deal, which may surprise some. But I think I don't know if you agree with this, Elliot. I think the £16 million thing is sort of a big what's the word? I think it's
Big kicker,
persuaded
really.
Liverpool. Yeah, yeah, with the 16 million because before 30 million was being quoted. Um,
Well, the amount of
so,
money, if you think about, was being quoted to get Falcao in just on loan.
mm,
It kind of puts it into a bit of perspective, really, because we could have had Falcao. I've forgotten how much it was, but it was a lot of money to
yeah,
get Falcao in just for a year. And if we're signing Balotelli on, how many year contract is it? Some people said three, some people
three
said
with an
one.
option of a fourth. They're saying.
Right. So if you look at the amount of money we paid and the amount of money that, say if he does flop, say if he doesn't score a goal or he creates massive trouble on the training ground and we want to get rid of him, because of how young he is and because people know him and he's a big name, we'll still sell him on for around that price anyway, I think.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's what they're thinking as well. And it was a surprise when it all came out, but people sort of come around to it really. We're replacing one nutcase in Luis Suarez with another one. It has its pros and cons. I think it splits opinion a lot of this in terms of his character. And that some people saying, "Oh, he'll disrupt the dressing room." But Elliot, I mean, a lot of people, I saw, I mean, it's Mark Lawrenson, I think, who usually, isn't the best for football reviews, but he actually made a fairly good point yesterday, I thought, where he said um, the players that have played with Balotelli all actually, they really like him. I mean, he's a bit of an idiot, as we know, but I think the thing that may have persuaded Rodgers is that, he's not an openly bad person. I think he's got a good heart.
Yeah,
Um,
I think when you saw the pictures of him saying goodbye to the AC Milan players at the training ground, I think you saw him hugging the players and they all seemed quite upset that he was leaving. I think El Shawari was crying, wasn't he?
yeah.
And I think you can tell that he does have a big influence. I think everyone does love him. I've spoken to a lot of Manchester City fans that I know, and they're quite gutted that he's come to Liverpool. And they said when he comes back to play against them, they'll receive him really well. They all love him there, and they're quite gutted he's coming here. But yeah, I don't think he's going to create too much bad tension. Obviously, he's going to be the kind of player that will wind people up from time to time. But I think he's such a big personality, and the players can have a good laugh with him as well, which obviously people like Sturridge love doing, don't they?
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people, are pointing out as well, and rightly so, that Brendan Rodgers worked with Luis Suarez. He always says, Rodgers, that he tries to improve the player and the person, so he says. So do you think, that he can maybe do the same with Balotelli? I think Balotelli's maybe, he's a bit harder to get out of his ways,
Yeah,
possibly.
I think, for example, you look at Sturridge, you look at Sterling, look at the way he treats those kind of players. It has seemed to have gone well so far. And even Suarez, he played his best football under Rodgers. And I think, especially last season with Steve Peters there, I think Steve Peters will play a big part of Balotelli performing well next season. Because you looked at, for example, Suarez. I don't think it's any coincidence that as soon as he went to the World Cup and Steve Peters wasn't with him, that he snapped on the pitch. I think the two might have been linked, to be honest. And even though it's a lot of work for the club to do to try and bring Balotelli down to earth a bit, I think it is something that can be done. And I think Balotelli realises as well this might be his last chance to make it big, because if he does cause trouble here again, then it might be difficult for a big club to come in for him again.
Definitely. And I think, the reason so many fans have been so desperate for a striker is that it does make our squad. I mean, we've made some brilliant additions. You go through our signings this summer one by one. I think it's more than many could have imagined for this
Oh
summer.
yeah.
But it does, on paper, I mean, our attacking options look great already, but it really does strengthen them. Rodgers, as we said on the show last week, is a big fan of the 4-4-2 diamond, as he calls it. It gives him the opportunity to have his three in midfield and try and control the game, but also lets him have a real threat up front. Usually, with two up front and sort of a roaming player behind.
Yeah.
And it allows him to do that again. I mean, Lambert came on last week just as an option towards the end, just something different, and I think that's basically what Lambert's been brought in for. But
Yeah.
maybe as a starter, he's maybe not that sort of player. But Balotelli changes things, doesn't he? And he allows him to play that diamond a bit more. Do you think it'll be a good fit for that formation?
Yeah, I do think it will be, because like you say, I think Lambert is the kind of player that will come on, and I think he will ultimately be seen as a plan B. Whereas I think Balotelli may be seen as an alternative rather than a plan B. Because I don't think, as soon as Balotelli comes in, I don't think he is going to be starting every game, in my opinion. But I think if he does crack on and he does do well, then I think he has the potential to work his way into that first team. Because you think at the moment we've still got Lallana to come back in, we've got Markovic to come back in, we've got a lot of attacking options which can really improve the team. And I don't think it's dead set as saying Balotelli will go straight into the first team as an option straight away. I think it depends how he fits in. I think he has the potential to do it, and to be honest, Balotelli on top of his game has the potential to be our best player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he also has the potential to flop, so I think it's just a matter of seeing how he does when he gets here. Obviously, he's already played in the Premier League, so he's used to playing in that kind of atmosphere and all that, but I think he will adapt to the team well, the way the team plays. He's not just a target man, he's the kind of player that will come out wide, and he has good touches of the ball,
yeah.
And obviously he can take a very good penalty and a very good free kick as well, which helps.
Yeah, he made a good point there about he's not just a target man. I was going to say that's sort of what helped last season with the Diamonds. I mean, Rodgers always said Sturridge and Suarez weren't, put together to be a partnership. They were put up front because they're two good players.
Yeah.
They work off each other, and he used to call him 9.5s.
Yeah.
And I think Balotelli can play that sort of system as well. And I think they'll both work off each other. I think the Balotelli Sturridge thing could be really good. I mean, when you look at all the qualities Balotelli's got, I mean, he's got everything Rodgers seems to like in a strike. He's sort of similar to Sturridge, and strong, technically brilliant. I mean, some of the goals he scored are quite ridiculous.
Oh yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
And yeah, really good right foot, very quick. So yeah, I mean, it's an exciting one. It seems the latest is that he's done his medical. That was done Friday, Saturday, and he's gone back to Italy, presumably to bring stuff back over here, I guess. And he's due back tomorrow to complete it. And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to play against City. But
I know, I was really looking forward to that. If you could have made that in time, but never mind. The one thing that does worry me about Balotelli in terms of him not maybe fitting into the system is Rodgers likes players who work hard. You can see it with Henderson and the way we chase the ball all the time. I don't think Balotelli is the kind of player who will chase that ball, and I think you'll get a lot of games where throughout the game you're so frustrated watching him because he won't move, and then he'll do something amazing at the end of it. And I think he's like, in my opinion, he's a lot better version than Andy Carroll, because Andy Carroll would do that and then he wouldn't do the good thing at the end of it. But I think Balotelli has the potential to do the good thing on the end of it, so it might be forgiven for it a bit like Berbatov as well, because Berbatov has fantastic talent, but at the same time, a lot of the time he just can't bother to move around the pitch, which Balotelli, if things aren't going his way, he's the kind of player that might mope around the pitch a bit. That's the only concern for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. He does have options, though. Again, it's not. It is a £16 million. There's not much to lose, and I think he can also, a lot of the time at City, he played out on the left side. He does give us that option, sort of cutting in as a wide forward, which we've mentioned on the last few weeks that we could have done with someone sort of a forward that could give us an option wide as well. So it does give us that, and I think Rodgers will definitely try and implement that sort of pressing into his game and stuff. We've got so much interaction on Balotelli, as you can imagine, from Twitter, so I'll read them out now. At Callum Pearce says, Balotelli could be a steal with the love of the Liverpool fans and Rodgers' man management skills. Time will tell. At This Is Riaz says, of course Balotelli is worth the risk at 16 million. If he performs, bargain. If he doesn't, we'll easily be able to recoup most
Exactly the point I was making before.
Yeah, of the £16 million. At Levy T Langford says it is worth signing Balotelli. He's an elite level striker. Manchester United are lobbing 75 million at Di Maria. Different position, but 60 million less for the same level player. A valid point, I guess. Ashley Milner says he's definitely worth the risk. On his day, he's unplayable and a top player. Rodgers and co will get the best out of him. And yeah, just a final one. At Homemade Halo says, how much was Carroll and Downing? Is this 16 million price tag even a debate? He brings that other option and quality cover, which sums it up well, I think.
The great thing seeing people's reactions to Balotelli, because I know when it was first being rumoured, even a few weeks ago, there's a lot of reservations on my Twitter feed, people saying, oh, I'm not too sure about this, I don't know what kind of atmosphere you'll have. And as it went on, you just gradually saw people getting fully on board with it, and by the end of it, everyone was like, oh, this is brilliant. It's gone from one extent to another, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just such a shock when it all came out, really. Sort of emerged in the middle of the day, and people still were dismissing it, and sort of grew on, and then by 10:30 that evening it had all emerged, and it's all happened so quickly as well. I mean, Ian Ayre deserves an awful lot of credit this summer. I mean, he sort of had a reputation before of dragging deals out and not getting deals done, but this summer, I think, as I keep saying on Twitter, I think something definitely changed when Rodgers signed that contract. There was a quote from him out at the time saying he needed a bit more transfer activity back in than he was getting. And this summer, he's got pretty much all his top targets.
Yeah, well, I think it's because he proved himself last season. They can't really go against after what Rodgers did last season. I think he can get wherever he wants, really, because the way he turned our team around last season was phenomenal. And I think if he thinks these players are better for the team, then I think we better listen to him. And inevitably, the players that we brought in, there's always going to be one or two flops. It just always happens. Most likely, it's not all going to work out right. But I think overall, as a squad, we just look, Suarez aside, because you can't replace Suarez, he's one of the best players in the world. But as a squad, we look so much stronger as a group this year, I think.
Yeah. Just a final one of strikers. The other one that was being mentioned right up until the Balotelli stuff was all, agreed, was Falcao. There's still things now that Liverpool were basically willing to pay what Monaco wanted. I mean, it would only have been a loan, that's worth stressing.
Yeah.
Would you rather have had Falcao on loan for a season or 16 million, which is cheaper than Falcao on loan? They were talking about 20 million just for one season.
Yeah, well, I think it'll all be about hindsight, really, because at the time when we were linked with Falcao just for a season, or we were linked with Eto'o, even though Eto'o wouldn't have been a very good alternative, but we've got Origi coming back next year, and obviously he's a very good talent and he can add to the team a lot, and there was the worry that if you brought someone in more long-term, then you'd have three very good strikers competing, and then maybe one of them would get annoyed because they weren't getting as much game time. So with Balotelli now, you've got the problem of Origi. Well, it's not really a problem, it's a nice problem to have, but you've got him coming in next year. So at the time I thought, maybe it's good to get someone in for a year and then we can put all our eggs in that basket next year. But at this moment in time, I'm pleased with the Balotelli signing, to be honest. Falcao's quite injury prone as well.
Yeah, so, it's a risk with him as well. I mean, he's obviously just come back off a very serious injury.
And paying that much for a loan as well, it does beg a few questions, really, when you're not even holding on to him. Because if he does really well, then you're not going to keep him anyway, because they're going to want him back. And if he does really badly, then it's a waste of money. So I have a lot of reservations about paying so much for loan signings, really.
Yeah. You mentioned someone there, Samuel Eto'o, who that seems to have ended now. There was some rumours the other day that he'd actually had a medical on the same
day, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, on the same day that that Balotelli did.
Yeah.
I think Andy Hunter even mentioned that we've flown people out to Paris to see him, medical staff and things. But James Pearce has since said that's basically a load of rubbish, and that that ship sailed now that we've got Balotelli in, which is a relief, I think, for many.
Yeah,
I mean, if Marini was to go, then maybe he'd be a decent, coming in as maybe a third, fourth choice striker.
I think he'd be a great fourth choice striker, but otherwise it wouldn't have been a very good idea. But I think as fourth choice, if Marini does go, then I'd be happy to take Eto'o in, really, because he still can find the net. He scored a hat-trick against United last year. Like, he's not completely past it, but only as a fourth choice. I wouldn't have him starting many games.
Yeah. The latest with Barini, Sunderland just played this afternoon, and Gus Poyet says we're close to a decision. I think many are assuming that now we've got Balotelli that Barini might go, and
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see on that.
But if
I
you look
mean, but
if you look to Sunderland today, they need a striker. They do
yeah,
need him really.
I'd agree. But if you go through our squad now, I mean, even tomorrow we've got a lot of, we don't have Balotelli in yet that's available. Lallana's out, but Barini still isn't going to get on the bench. Um, you, I don't think you've got sort of
No.
Markovic, Lambert. You've got the two midfielders, Chan and probably Lucas tomorrow. I think Alan will play. Your two defenders and then a goalkeeper. Um, so Barini, he's right. He's behind in the pecking order, and I think
Oh
it would
yeah.
be in his best interest to go. There are some reports from sort of northeast that they've withdrawn that £14 million offer, which is a shame, and that it will only be a loan. But I must stress that that's not confirmed.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see with that. I mean, 14 million would be brilliant.
Oh yeah, because we basically just got Balotelli for 2 million really. If that happens,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Deals you've managed to pull off. But so yeah, would you be pretty happy to let Barini go if Balotelli is confirmed as expected in the next couple of days?
Yeah, because I was looking the other day, because I was looking at if we could make two 11s out of our squad, who would be in those two 11s, and Barini didn't even enter my thinking for either of the 11s. So thinking he's that far behind the pecking order, he was kind of like in the others list, which is surplus to requirements, we don't really need them anymore. And even though it's good to see that he has such fight and wants to stay, I do like to see that in a player. I think just quality-wise, he just won't get a look in. I think for his career, it's best that he moves on as well, because I do quite like Barini. I'd like to see him do well, and I think at Liverpool, his career would just come to a standstill, really.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you can understand why he's pretty keen to stay on.
Well, it is good to see, because if he said, "Oh, I can't wait to leave," then everyone would be having a go at him, and then everyone's having a go at him for saying he wants to stay, so he can't really win.
That's very true. So yeah, I think that'll cover strikers for now. We'll briefly come back on to things later. So, as you know, just over a week. I think deadline day is next Monday. Just over a week to go, and you'd probably say we're pretty much done. But we've been linked with, well, we haven't been, but we supposedly want a goalkeeper, and there haven't been many names that have popped up. Romero's one, and just an interesting point on that link that came up last week that we mentioned, Romero. He has got the same agent, Raiola, as Balotelli.
Yeah.
And it's sort of 1 million-ish they're talking, but it has gone a bit quiet on that, so I have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, with goalkeepers, I think, in terms of bringing, because the personalities we've brought in, we've had to change our squad around and bring so many players in. But I think you come to a point where you're kind of just bringing people in for the sake of bringing it in. And I think after the changes we've made to the squad over the summer, I think Brad Jones is a fine backup for the time being. Because how often, touch wood, do you really have to use your second choice goalkeeper anyway? And from what I've seen of Brad Jones as a second choice, he's fine for the time being. Maybe
I think he has improved under Rodgers, to be fair to him. He gets stick because, maybe he did make a couple of blunders in the Kenny Dalglish days, but under Rodgers he's been pretty faultless.
Yeah, I see why people might say that you need to push Mignolet a bit more because his place isn't threatened. But I think for the time being, you've got to be wary of just bringing people in for the sake of bringing it in. And then I think for the time being, I think we're fine without bringing a keeper in. If we brought one in, then fair enough, and maybe he'll challenge Mignolet a bit, but I don't think it's essential.
Yeah, I think you can understand why they've left it to last, can't you, really?
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be many opportunities popping up, but it's one to keep an eye on. We'll round up a few sort of rumours and stuff that have gone in the last week. The other one, in terms of an outgoing, is Lucas. He's been quoted as saying he's happy at Liverpool, but if an offer came in and that was good for Liverpool and good for him, then they'd obviously think about it, stating the obvious, of course. But the next day, Sport Media Set in Italy, who were actually first to break the Balotelli stuff, said that Napoli had agreed a loan deal with an option to buy for Lucas. Rafa Benitez seems to like the idea of loaning our players. If he was to go, I wouldn't let go of him now, basically because I think we do need backup for Gerrard, really. Emre Can, at the moment, is someone that plays further forward, box to box. And Lucas played last weekend, and if we want to play with two holders, we definitely need two holders in the squad. But if we want to play with two, then obviously one's got to stay or come in if Lucas goes. I just think we've left it a bit late there. I expect him to go in maybe January or next summer. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Lucas? Because he does get quite a lot of stick now. Would you
Yeah,
want to see him? How do you rate him as a player? And would you want him to stay now?
I think his injuries have gone against him, to be honest. I think because obviously when he first came, he got a lot of stick for how he played, and then he proved people wrong because he was brilliant. And then since his injuries, he's deteriorated massively, and I don't think he can fit into that role anymore. But as you say, the problem is that we need another holder, and Gerrard, even though he's great, he's not going to be able to play every single game this season, in my opinion. And it is a bit frustrating. I think that is another place we do need to strengthen. But I think unless we can, then I think there's no point getting rid of Lucas at this point. If he wants to go, I wouldn't stop him. But at the same time, I'm not looking for him to leave either, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because I do really like Lucas, and I just feel sorry for him because I think the injuries have just kind of ruined his career a bit now. Because he did have the potential to be a very, very good player for us, and he was. And I think it's just a bit of a shame that the injuries have kind of stunted his growth as a player, and I don't think he's going to go back to the way he was. And he gets so much stick from the fans, and every single time you see him play, and what happens is especially when he's playing alongside Gerrard, them two just can't play alongside each other. They just haven't got enough movement, and it just doesn't really work. You need people who are chasing like Henderson, Chan, Allen. You need people like that in the midfield, and I just don't really think Lucas kind of fits that role. Gerrard gets away with it because he's not as mobile as the others, but he can still spray passes wide. I don't think Lucas is as good at that, and it kind of shows in this formation as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rodgers would admit that he usually only plays the one holder, and I think tomorrow we'll probably go back to that, looking at some of the training pictures and stuff. It looks like Allen's going to come in, and maybe I should think him and Henderson will play a little ahead of Gerrard, which is what we've been used to. It was a bit of a shock last week when Lucas was picked, but I was thinking, beginning of last season we played that 4-2-3-1 as well. I wonder if it's just sort of until we get our rhythm a bit, until other players become available and we become a bit more fluid, and that's when we might see likes of Coutinho drop back into midfield.
I'm sure I saw an article saying that Chan didn't play last week because he picked up a knock.
Yeah, he does supposedly, he said in his interview the other day he's not 100% fit.
Yeah, and I think he would have played because I thought he was brilliant in pre-season, and I was quite disappointed to see Lucas in that starting 11. But you saw last season we took a while to get going. We took a long time to get going, even though we were still getting results. We weren't playing very well, and then it just kind of clicked. And I think we just kind of have to be patient and wait for it to click because it's not all going to go perfect straight away. The players have had time off and been playing different teams in the World Cup over the summer, and I think we just need to be a bit patient with them, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. So yeah, again, week to go, just a roundup of some of the players that we think are probably likely to go. Jordan Ibe has, he had a pretty impressive pre-season, and everyone knows what Jordan Ibe's about. But with so many attacking players in now, Rodgers, it seems he's decided that it's best to go out on loan again.
Yeah.
Early beginning of this week, it was reported in the Mirror that he was set to join Bolton. Which I don't know how many would have felt about that, sort of similar to the Birmingham move, and I think it's fair to say many feel that he could do a job at a better team than that. But that hasn't been finalised or anything. And since then, actually, the Echo have said that Derby are in pole position. Obviously, his Wisdom was at Derby last year.
Yeah, Derby's a lot better place to be, I think.
I think they're favourites for promotion, sort of as well. They had a big win yesterday. Yeah,
with Ibe as well. I think he could easily fit into a lower Premier League team as well. I'd like to see him on loan there because either I'd like to see him near the top of the Championship where he's playing every week, or even the Premier League where he might not play every week, but he still gets used to it and then builds himself into the team because I think he needs that now. Because he's exactly a year younger than Sterling is, and he kind of needs that push-on year now where he's playing week in, week out at quite a high level. And I don't think he can get it with us at the moment because there's just not space for him. But I think he could get it a bit higher up than Bolton anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's just, I mean, he said that Rodgers has said that they've been inundated with offers for him, which is totally understandable. But he said football offers from the Football League, and also, I mean, one positive of sending him out to the Championship is that you can recall him if needs be. I mean, I doubt we'd need to, but if he's just not getting game time there, or you do have the option to recall him.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think. One point with that though is that he doesn't necessarily need to go in the next 8 days. The loan window does stay open for a little while afterwards for Football League clubs to take him. So they'll obviously want to choose a good club for him because there's no doubt he's a good talent and he could definitely be someone for the future for us. other than that, I mean, you can assume basically that the players that he wants out. Coates has been linked with a move away. He's been linked with Sunderland in the Daily Mail today, and also there's a couple of North East reports on a loan deal. I think a lot of that would depend on whether Barini is a loan or not, because you can't loan two
Two
players
players,
from
yeah.
the same club. He's also been linked with Sampdoria in Italy, which is where Romero comes from, the goalie that we're supposedly after. So again,
Yeah, I prefer us to sell someone like Quartes really, because I can't see him. He looked okay in pre-season, but I just can't see him coming back and establishing himself in the team. I think it's kind of gone past that point now. He's gonna. I think he's gonna end up becoming one of those players that we loan out, and then he comes back, and then we just loan him out again. And I can't really see him pushing on now, really. And I think I'd first just get some money out of him and just sell him at this point, really.
yeah, I
Because
think
at the moment in the squad, if Aga stays, and I think Torre's staying now, he's literally sixth choice centre back at the moment.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Aga was the one I was going to move on to next. I think many expected him to go, but nothing's really come out about that at all. I don't know what we read into it, but he retweeted a tweet yesterday, basically writing off rumours and things like that, saying only stupid people listen to rumours or something along those lines. Again, nothing's come up at all. He's a good defender, of course, but he's injured at the moment, so you'd say he's behind Sacco in the pecking order, and I think in some ways Rodgers will prefer Toure to him, basically, because he talks. And we do have, Lovren's playing left centre back, Sacco's a left centre back, and Aga's a left centre back. So whether we need all three, I'm not sure, but there's not many clubs in for him.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to the Lucas situation. If I had the option, I wouldn't want us to get rid of him, because I still think he's quite a decent player in terms of. I think he's the fourth choice centre back at the moment. I know you say about left side and right hand side, but I think he's a better centre back than Torre is.
Yeah.
And I would like to keep him, but at the same time, if he did want to leave, I wouldn't begrudge him leaving either, because I wouldn't pick him in my starting 11 at the moment. And I think he'd be lucky to get in the team, really. But it's good. He's good to have there as a backup. But obviously, if he doesn't want to be a backup, you can't blame him for wanting to leave either.
Yeah. Final few. Assaidi, we know he's moved.
How is he still here? I don't know what's going on with Assaidi.
Apparently, he's got an injury at the moment. I mean, we know he's moved to Stoke, has collapsed. They went for Victor Moses instead. And it's supposed to be to do with wages, but he'll know he doesn't have a future at Liverpool. So don't be surprised to see him join someone else. But there's no links out in the media or anything at the moment.
Yeah, it made me laugh in the press conference the other day, because the guy from Sky Sports was asking Rodgers who was injured, and then because he's saying who's out, and then he goes, "Oh, Assaidi," and then Rodgers kind of just looked at it and goes, "Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, he's still out as well."
Yeah. He just said he wasn't available. I wouldn't be surprised if he is fit and he's just not getting a look in, to be honest.
Well, he never got a look in, did he? It was all a bit odd, really, the Assaidi signing, because it came in from nowhere as well, didn't it? It just kind of got announced, and everyone was like, "Who is this guy?" But he did quite well at Stoke last season. I'm surprised, because he's a better option than Moses for them, I think. Well, I don't rate Moses at all, but I'd hope we'd get rid of him.
Yeah, I'd agree. And then the final two, Jack Robinson. I mean, he's still training up at Millwall. He was linked with Brighton, but Teixeira's gone there and has scored 2 goals in 2 games. That's worth a mention, these first 2 games.
Oh yeah, saw that.
So I have to wait and see with Robinson, but with Moreno in now and Manquillo, he's not going to get any game time. And the final one that I just thought I'd mention is Suso, because there was talk of him signing a new contract, but that's gone very quiet. And with the attacking players we've brought in, I really can't see him getting much game time at all, if any.
I think he's under threat.
I'm surprised to see him either sold or loaned in this last week.
Yeah, I think he's under threat of being caught in the gap between the youth team and the main team, because I think there'll be a lot of weeks where he won't get on the bench. But I think because he's with the first team squad, he probably won't end up dropping into the 21s either. And I think he's just going to end up being stuck between the two. And even though when I have seen him, I've been quite impressed with him. I think he's quite a good player. I think we've just got better options than him now. And I just don't think he's not going to get anywhere near as much game time as he'd like. And maybe it'd be worth another loan out, perhaps, but maybe to a Premier League or Championship club this time, just to see how he copes in England. Physically. But if we can get some money for him, then I wouldn't be against selling him really at this point.
Yeah. Apparently, Brian Swanson on Sky Sports News has just said it's down to personal terms with Barini to Sunderland.
Oh, that's good then. Hopefully we can get the 14 million, because 14 million is a lot of money. I can't believe
it would be amazing if that finally goes through.
Yeah. Make the Balotelli
Um,
deal look even better, wouldn't it? But,
exactly, yeah. So yeah, that's basically individually all the ins and outs at the moment. Just sort of a little thing I thought we'd end up on. We've talked about how good of a window it's been for Liverpool player for player. I mean, just if I read out the names we've signed, it's been Lambert, Chan, Lallana, Markovic, Lovren, Origi, who's obviously been loaned back, Manquillo, Moreno, and now Balotelli. There's 9 in so far. Player for player, it's really good, isn't it? So, I did a tweet out earlier to say, what's your preferred lineup and bench with everyone available? We're assuming that next week, Lallana's back in full training now. He was pictured yesterday back in full training. So he might make the bench, I assume, for next week.
yeah.
For Spurs. And Balotelli should be available by then, of course. So next week we might be able to see a bit more of all these players. But we did a tweet out earlier, what's your preferred sort of 18? And we got some quite good replies in which I'll come on to. But Elliot, I'll ask you first. If you was, Champions League final, everyone's available.
Champions League final. That's bold.
What is your team as it stands? Player for player.
Yeah, so Mignolet in goal, obviously. And I'd have Manquillo at right back. I just don't rate Glenn Johnson at all.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think he's a very good player.
Looks like he's starting tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I just don't understand really. Maybe he just doesn't want to throw Manquillo and Moreno in. But I think just seeing Manquillo just once, I think he just proved he was better than Johnson. But never mind.
Yeah.
But Manquillo, I'd have centre backs Lovren and Sacco. I know that would mean playing Lovren out of position a bit, but I just think Lovren and Sacco are a lot better options than Skrtel. I think Skrtel's a good third choice, but I think those two are just so much more composed, and I think Sacco at the World Cup was brilliant, and I think it's a shame he's not getting into our starting 11. So I hope he starts a few more games. But I think Lovren is dead cert. I think he looks so composed in the back, and he's so vocal as well, which is great. Moreno again, I feel sorry for John Flanagan because he did great last season, but the moment he's out injured, it's hard to tell how he's going to push his way back into the team after coming back from that. Then midfield of Gerrard, Henderson, and then Coutinho at the front of that.
Right.
And then front three of Sturridge, Sterling, Balotelli, I think. But it depends how Balotelli settles in. You could easily say that because Markovic could hit the ground running, Lallana could start playing brilliantly for us as well when he comes in. So I think that Balotelli spot could be taken by Lallana or Markovic as well. But I think it just goes to show that we've got those so many options now, because last year I think we literally had about 12 or 13 players really who could challenge the first 11, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But now we seem to have a choice of 2 11s that we could really pick, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pretty much agree with that. It was the front three was Sterling, Sturridge, Balotelli, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what most people are saying at the moment. The only thing, I think Adam Lallana, I was tweeting the other night, I think Adam Lallana is going to be one of our players of the season. I think when you look at the profile player that he is, I think he fits perfectly into this system.
Yeah.
He presses well, he's versatile, and he supposedly cost around 23 million pounds. And it's just getting him into the team, really, isn't it? I wonder. I've said for a while I think he can play that sort of third central midfield spot, sort of where you said Coutinho.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance he might play there, and I think he'd quite suit that position.
And what about Coutinho then? Where would you put Coutinho then?
Well, this is it. It's a squad game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to depend on opposition. It's going to depend on injuries, etc. So if that's your 11. What's your bench? This is arguably even harder than the first team.
The bench is so difficult because I just tried to type it out quickly then, and I'm looking at it, and I've got 7, but now I haven't got I've just realised I haven't got a centre back. I'm looking at it, I'm like trying to find space for everyone to fit in, because obviously you've got to have Jones as a sub goalkeeper, because we're not Neil Warnock, we don't not have a good sub goalkeeper. And then I've got, at the moment I've written down, I haven't got a centre back here, which I need, but I've got Lallana, Markovic, Lambert, Johnson, Enrique, Allen. But maybe you'd be tempted to just drop Enrique from that and put in Skrtel. Probably, yeah, you put in Skrtel. But then things, you've got people like Enrique and Flanagan who haven't even made that bench, and I'm sure I've missed someone else out as well. And Lucas as well you're looking at, and Agger not even on that bench. And it just shows how much strength and depth we've got. But it's actually very difficult, because I think this season you're going to find a lot of players very annoyed that they're going to find themselves not even in the matchday squad.
Mm.
which is quite difficult. I don't know what you'd say about that. What do you think?
I've found it difficult to keep up, to be honest. Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, many have sort of got Lallana on their bench with Markovic and then Chan and Allen, which leaves
Oh
no.
yeah, sorry, I completely missed out Emre Can as well.
Yeah.
I definitely in there.
which leaves out Lambert, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the issue.
And if you're playing I think Lambert's going to be. I still think. I mean, he showed last week. He's going to be a great option off the bench. I think he's going to be a good alternative. And also, if you're playing a 4-4-2 diamond, then surely you probably want a strike on the bench.
Yeah.
If you want to stick with that system, but
yeah, who'd you drop out? Because I completely forgot about Chan. I'd definitely have him on there, but I don't know who you'd drop out then. You're talking about getting rid of Allen or Lambert then?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'll go through mine now. I think my team, as it stands, would be Mignolet. I'd go for Manquillo, Skrtel, Lovren, just because at the moment it hasn't. It's looked pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I think that defence as a whole will improve when Moreno comes in, which is expected to tomorrow. I think the whole balance of that defence will be a lot better.
Yeah.
With the left, if you look at the Southampton attacks last week, they came down our left side.
Oh yeah.
The Klein goal did. And then I'd have Gerrard Holding. I'd have Henderson. This bit's so hard. I'd say Lallana at the moment.
Yeah. For me, I was just waiting to see how he settles in, really, because you don't know how he's going to end up playing.
It's a bit early days to do this. It's just exciting to run through what we could possibly have. And then Sterling, Sturridge, Balotelli, I think, in the diamond.
Yeah.
Bench, you're looking at Jones, Sarko, Flanagan or Johnson. So difficult.
I know. And to be honest, I probably would put in Flanagan over Johnson.
I think he's a better defender, isn't he?
Mm.
And then I'd go Chan, Markovic, who am I missing? Coutinho, and Allen, I think.
So you said Lambert doesn't make the bench?
Yeah, we're missing Lambert. It's so difficult. But obviously, the amount of times we're going to have our strongest squad is.
Oh yeah, the amount of injuries and stuff.
Yeah, it'll be there's more players to get injured, so it'll hardly ever happen. I should think having your strongest squad, but it's just so good to have options again. I was saying to someone on Twitter the other day, it's what Liverpool fans have wanted for so long, isn't it? A competitive squad, and the best thing about all these players as well. Yes, they're great individuals, but they all know their job. In terms of Liverpool, it's a team that plays in a certain way. They'll all know their roles. They'll all be training really well, and it's so good to have a bench and options that you can just change it up all the time. Even the other day when we didn't have these vast array of attacking players, he brought on Allen, who I thought changed the game, and Lambert, who aren't you'd probably say aren't our biggest players, but they still come on and made a difference. So it's brilliant. Like I say, I asked on Twitter earlier, sort of there for other people's teams.
Yeah.
Let's read a couple about. Chris Jones says Mignolet, Johnson, Lovren, Sarko, Moreno, Gerrard, Henderson, Coutinho, Sterling, Sturridge, Markovic. The same as yours, isn't it?
I Balotelli instead of Markovic.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And then bench of Jones, Manquillo, Flanagan, Skrtel, Allen, Lambert, and Balotelli.
Yeah.
No, it's mental. At LFC Tiki Taka says Mignolet, Manquillo, Skrtel, Lovren, Moreno, Gerrard, Henderson, Coutinho, Sterling, Balotelli, Sturridge. So that's the same as mine.
Yeah.
At the LFC debate, it says Mignolet, Manquillo, Skrtel, Lovren, Moreno, Gerrard, Henderson, Lallana, Coutinho, Sterling, Sturridge. I think that would have been my team before we signed Balotelli.
Yeah.
I'd have had Coutinho in for Balotelli.
Yeah,
I think Lallana off one of the sides.
I think looking at it though, it shows the difference from last year. Because if you would have asked the same question at the end of last season, anytime, even when we were playing really well, I think 99% of people would have given you the same first 11. Yeah. And then the bench wouldn't have been that difficult to choose either. And even if there was a bit difference on the bench, you'd be like, oh yeah, well it doesn't really matter. But like looking at it now, there is actual proper debate going on about how diverse our team is and what different players can play in different positions, when we just haven't had that for so long. And it's so good to, because beforehand we got to a point, especially like under Hodgson and stuff, you'd get to a point where you'd say, oh, these few players deserve to be in the team, and the rest of them didn't really seem to make a difference. But now it seems it's so competitive and everyone has different opinions, but it kind of shows these players do have qualities because people are making reasons for them to be in the first 11 as well, which is great.
Yeah. At Charlie Price _98 makes some good comments here. I think he says Mignolet, Manquillo, Skrtel, Lovren, Moreno, Gerrard, Henderson, Coutinho, Sterling, Balotelli, Sturridge, and he adds, I wouldn't have a striker on the bench because if one of the strikers gets injured, we could be comfortable moving to a 4-3-3, which I think is a valid point with the amount of Markovic and Coutinho and the vast array of sort of attacking midfield.
And I think Sterling is someone who, if push came to shove, he could play down the middle as well. I think we have got players who could kind of adapt to that kind of position. You could have people like Lallana and Markovic playing kind of like more of a false nine role as well.
Yeah, so, and then go on.
But yeah, I was just going to say, it just seems a bit of a shame that because Lambert came in at the start of this summer, and now it's looking like he's actually pushing to get a place on the bench, and he will get on the bench, but people are going to have to give way to him as well. That's the thing.
Yeah, true. And then he says, so that's with players like Lallana, Markovic, Allen and Chan on the bench. It's just it's brilliant player for player. Luke Powell, this is the last one I'm going to read out. Luke Powell, at Luke Powell _96, says he go for Mignolet, Manquillo, Lovren, Sarko, Moreno, Gerrard, Henderson, Coutinho, Sterling, Sturridge, Balotelli. So he's leaving out Lallana there. He's leaving out Skrtel.
Yeah.
And he's got Lambert on his bench as well, and no Allen or Lucas. So, yeah, I mean, certainly a vast array of options.
Yeah, well, I think looking at that as well, you can kind of see how Agger and Lucas are surplus to requirements, even though we say it would be nice to keep them around. I don't think, has anyone named either of them on their bench? I think
no.
So it kind of shows that we don't really need them in the squad. And I know it will be different when we're playing a lot of games and he needs to rotate a lot, because Rodgers has said he's going to rotate a lot more this season. He's going to have to. So I think there will be chances for everyone. But I think looking at our strongest 18 there, and the fact that they're in no one's 18, then it kind of just, that speaks volumes, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really good. Right, I think we'll round off there. I mean,
cool.
We've got through a lot there. We've got through rumours, we've got through team lineups and everything, so there's lots of process for people. So yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll probably do another one later, sort of in the coming week, and hopefully, I mean, Balotelli's expected to be confirmed by then, and we might have some news on the goalkeeper and possible outcoming. So thanks for joining me, Elliot.
No problem.
And we'll see you all in a couple of days.